Hi everyone, I hope you guys are all doing well. My name is Nick and this is my multilingual cities final research project. So in my research we'll be heading down to Venice, California, and I'm going to be analyzing the Venice Beach Boardwalk. I'll be zooming in on a specific location of the boardwalk, which will be the stretch along the oceanfront walk between Windward Avenue and Brooks Avenue. I selected this specific area because it is one of the most busy, active, and recognizable sections of the Venice Beach Boardwalk. This area is very well known for having a variety of businesses and entertainment with different types of street vendors, shops, performers, and of course, for those who have been there, a heavy tourist population. This space was extremely interesting to me because of how much action there was going on. Within this very short and small but packed section of the boardwalk, there are official government-mandated signs, along with business storefronts, handmade signs created by vendors, and artistic murals layered with lots of graffiti. Although all of these signs are different, they're all fighting to attract attention to tourists in the same small area of public space. So, the research question I am proposing is, how do official city signs and informal vendor signs on the Venice Boardwalk reflect different origins of power in a shared public space filled with heavy tourism? And overall, I'm going to argue that the linguistic landscape of the Venice Boardwalk reveals significant tension between institutional authority and grassroots expression, where official signage asserts control and regulation, while vendor-created signs reflect creativity, economic survival, and a localized identity. Alright, so to begin looking at the official signage of the Venice Boardwalk for things such as city regulations, cautionary signs, and rule postings, it is quite visible how the institutional power operates within the public space. Notice here how these signs are very simple, basic, and they're to the point in order to cause no sort of confusion to visitors and just the influx of tourists that are visiting the site. And they're also placed within areas where they're very visible within the public space and the signs can be seen and read easily. So here's an example of a no dog sign that is upon the entrance to the beach, and the sign is placed frequently in these visible spots around the Venice Boardwalk in order to make sure behavior and rules are being followed. And they provide the section of the LA Law Code where this rule applies. And also, the signs appear as permanent and official and supported by the city's regulatory guidelines. With regards to the Landry and Boris reading, these arguments represent what is known as top-down power. This means that the signs are made by institutions, for example the government, in order to have authority over the space and enforce laws to regulate safety in the space and decide what is allowed and what is not allowed. These institutional signs shape how people interact with the public space. Something interesting to note is that even though these signs have the intent to control the space in which they are implemented, they often blend into the background in comparison to something like a street vendor sign, which is more visually loud, revealing that institutional power is present, but is usually not visibly dominant due to their bland nature. So on the other hand, vendor and street signs are usually quite the opposite of an institutional sign. Vendor signs tend to be much more colorful and extravagant in order to catch visual attention, as you can see here. These signs can also be handmade, and creators will use bright colors, a slogan, or some sort of marketing technique to attract customers to their product. Here I have an example, which is a buy two, get one free deal on hats. They also include that they have jewelry and hoodies as well. The large lettering on the buy two, get one free text helps catch the eye of individuals in a competitive street vendor market. Additionally, these are all expensive items, so it may attract tourists who are looking for a deal on vacation. Signs like these are meant to reflect individual creativity and are designed to ensure that the sign can stand out in a competitive sales environment. With regards to the Gorder reading, this idea of linguistic landscapes being portrayed as multimodal is significant here. These signs do not rely solely on words themselves, but also the usage of images, colors, and layout to create meaning. The goal isn't solely to perform, but also to persuade and attract customers. These signs represent bottom-up power as opposed to the top-down motive of institutional signs. While they have no official authority, they serve to shape the existence of the space. These signs are what make the boardwalk what it is, portraying it as lively, chaotic, and creative. The idea of economic survival is also implemented, where vendors have to compete for the attention of visitors in order to stay alive in their particular market. Sometimes this leads to over-the-top signage that is sometimes exaggerated. Avili's work on tourist spaces further dive into this ideology in the sense that vendors are not just selling products for contributing to the overall atmosphere that tourists expect. Their signs are part of their performance. Going back to institutional signs, as you can see, many of these signs have been vandalized on with stickers and graffiti. I was curious about why this was such a phenomenon, so I decided to do further research. An article from the Venice Paparazzi stated that Venice has a deep-rooted history of artistic expression, and the infrastructure of these official government signs does not comply with what Venice represents. It can be inferred that the artistic nature of vendor signs go back to Venice's core values. The blocking of these signs represents pushback from people that want to keep Venice as an expressive place where there are always some people performing quirky acts. And lastly, I wanted to point out this video I took of this sign that says it's a residential quiet zone that is for pedestrians only, and there can be no amplified music, vending, or camping. And as you can see right below that sign, a lady had posted up her tent for a trinket table for customers to buy from, and this represents tension between what is being enforced and what is being listened to. To conclude, the Venice Beach Boardwalk serves as a clear example of how public space is shaped by competing forms of power that are constantly interacting with one another. Official city signage reflects top-down authority through its emphasis on regulation, order, and control, while vendor-created signs represent bottom-up expression driven by creativity, economic survival, and local identity. Rather than one form of power fully dominating the space, the boardwalk reveals an ongoing negotiation between the two, where rules are asserted but not always followed, and where informal practices challenge institutional boundaries. The presence of graffiti, layered signage, and even direct violations of posted rules highlights how this tension is not hidden, but instead becomes part of the landscape itself. Ultimately, the linguistic landscape of the Venice Boardwalk shows that public space is not fixed or controlled by a single authority, but is instead dynamic, contested, and shaped by the people who actively use and reinterpret it every day.